Isn't the fact that a former president was shot, that a good American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded, isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down?
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to include.
Who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision?
So what you're telling me is that 17 days after the former president, President Trump, getting shot at in Butler, Pennsylvania, okay, that no one thought, the individuals who are supposed to have all the information and all the intel, okay, that they did not think that it was a good idea to not have a sniper have clear sight line of the former president on the stage about 150 yards, which is a football field and 50 plus yards, give or take, with an assault rifle, with a rangefinder. Can you imagine if I just decided to just walk around with a rangefinder? That would never happen. And no one seems to know why that happened in the way it did. That's not strange at all. And this is why I keep saying, like, this is the biggest House of Cards episode series that we're watching in real time. How do you not know that this is an important thing to have covered, especially at the elevation that it was at in this Trump assassination attempt at Butler, Pennsylvania, about 17 days ago, give or take? To me, that doesn't make sense. To me, you're playing in the faces of the people that can see that you have information that you don't want to share. And at the same time, you have individuals that you don't want to fire, let go, relieve of duty, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, you want us to believe that this is something that is normal and we should necessarily ask questions. And any questions that we ask is just, we're still trying to get answers. So are we still trying to get answers of the pipe bombs during January 6th? Maybe we are still getting it. Did we get the answers of how a place that is so full of cameras where individuals can actually place those bombs without no one asking any questions? Let's just watch this. This conversation is really interesting between this senator and the individuals on the panel. All right, let's take a listen.
As the law enforcement who are in those windows, as they look left, they should be able to see the shooter clearly there.
Clearly. Okay, so let's have a conversation about this screen here. Now, this is a view from AGR, as he said, second floor. All right. Now, as someone who's played enough Call of Duty over the last 8-10 years, okay, if there was a team playing a match and they saw this particular roof, no team, and we're talking about a simulated experience, right? Which the government has done. The government has had video games about simulated experiences. Some of their best, if not all of their, fighter pilots have had simulated situations before they got into the actual plane that they get into, okay, to operate. So all these individuals have some experience and simulated experiences before they even get to this is not a drill, right? Format, right? The real world, right? So when you're looking at this particular roof, how do you not, as someone who's supposed to have all the information, right, and intel, how do you not put someone on that roof? And then that's the thing. So 17 days in, give or take, we're still asking questions that we will probably never get answers to. Okay? Let's just be honest about that. This is the biggest House of Cards that we've seen for some time. All right? This is the House of Cards. I don't know, where did they end? Season 6? This is probably season 7 and going on season 8 right now, if it was still running. Okay, this is how crazy this is. All right, so let's listen in.
On the AGR second floor roof. My question is, why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper on that roof?
Right. That's a simple question.
So, Senator, when we post up, our methodology is to look at things that can see in on our protectees so that they can provide that coverage.
Okay. Well, let's keep going.
Why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper there with clear line of sight? That roof has a clear line of sight to the former president. Why did...
Right. Simple question. It has a simple answer, but they just can't answer that, right? They're saying a whole bunch of other things that doesn't make sense. It's 150 yards away from the former president and a broad daylight in Butler, Pennsylvania, at a rally that is huge. A lot of folks are there, including some random person walking around with a rangefinder and scaling a roof. No one thinks that's weird, but let's keep going.
Didn't you put a Secret Service counter sniper there?
The Secret Service's counter sniper role is to neutralize those threats that are looking in on us from where the protectee is, not necessarily
you think maybe position. You might want to revise that?
Yeah, and that needs to be revised, right? Because if former President Obama can have a podcast at someone's house and their garage where all the snipers that happened to be there pretty much made sure that they were known, their presence was known, okay? They were all over the roofs there. And so you're telling me that was more secure than something that could easily have been secured 150 yards away from a stage. Doesn't make sense.
Protocol in light of what happened here?
They were protecting the principal, and I think
the principal got shot.
I understand that, sir.
So do you think you might want to revise the protocol?
Yeah, so the principal got shot. You may want to revise the protocol. And I think that's really interesting. So even with that, right? So there were some conversations that I've watched that didn't necessarily have anything to do with this particular thing here. But one thing that strikes me that's very interesting is that when you hear sniper experts talk about this particular situation, they say stuff to the effect of there was still time to take another shot, right? There was still time to take another shot. Now, granted, the shooter was down already, but the individuals who are supposed to be protecting the subject make sure that there shouldn't be another opportunity for another shot, especially when you have a picture of former president, standing up and there's enough space there, right? According to sniper experts and, former, of course, veterans at missions that they cannot talk about those things, that there should be no exposure once something like that pops off, right? And there was still exposure. And it's like, okay, so what is the training of the individuals? What were their training like to even leave that kind of exposure for a former president to say, wait, to have an opportunity to stand up again, to be exposed, right? Who knows if there were any other people there that would have considered trying to do another attempt, right? So that doesn't even make sense. What's the training with those individuals? Well, let's carry on.
Ask you this: who was the lead site agent who made the decision to leave the AGR building completely outside of the security perimeter? Who was that?
Senator, I cannot give you that name.
But he has the name.
Person is operational. They're still doing investigations. They're still doing protective visits.
Have they been relieved of duty?
Senator, they have not been relieved of duty. I know their name, by the way.
Why have they not been relieved of duty?
They are still cooperating, not only being interviewed by the FBI, but also by our Office of Professional Responsibility. And we will let the facts of the mission assurance and any further investigations play out.
Is it Isn't the fact that a former president was shot, that a good American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded, isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down?
Probably had to be stepped down, right? So the only person that got fired, according to what we've seen, is the former director, right? I think from what I understand, that's the only person that's been relieved of duty to go back to any, I guess, whatever other profession that, she was, part of. But outside of that, no one else has been relieved, right? And to be clear, when you hear the conversations of this particular thing still happening in the space, some may even call it staged, right? When you hear the conversation about the other gentleman, Fallon, stating that he recreated that with AR-15 that he hasn't shot for years or whatever the thing is. And with that, he was able to get 16 shots, somewhere around there. And the one that missed was the one that would have grazed the ear of the former president in that particular scenario. So which means that if this was staged, then the shooter intentionally missed, right? That is the conversation right now.
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to include.
Who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly what was the entire decision process. So I think I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview.
All right. So the acting director, still no answers. I think we're going to look at this. So what are we on? We're in a couple of days before July is over, right? And I firmly believe that we're still going to be having the same conversations. You're not getting any answers. This is the game, okay? So at some point, you have to realize that when things happen in this manner, whether you want to say it's far-fetched to say that this may have been staged, even though individuals get hurt. Well, there are things that are staged all the time and people get hurt. We don't want any individuals to get hurt. We don't want anyone to lose their family members. But for the cause of rallying behind a figure, some individuals will do anything to get what they need for that end. Anything, right? The means to an end, whatever it's in between that, it is what it is for certain places, for certain people, for certain territories, even for certain governments.
Everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment?
They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Okay. They're just not. Let's just be honest.
So yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here. And you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
Probably not.
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed
As the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage, knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
No, they haven't. No one's getting fired. Let's be honest. No one's getting fired. No one's getting laid off. Right? No one's going home. This is the cycle. We're going to keep seeing this cycle over and over again until you get tired of it, until you get to a place where you're like, you know what? I'm tired of listening to this. And then it just fades away, right? And whatever the purpose of that event was, whether it was to galvanize or or look towards a particular figure or look away from a figure, it has served its purpose. Yes, there were casualties. Fully aware of that. No one wants to lose their family members. But did it achieve what it was intended to achieve? We will see that in coming months.
As the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance, and as opposed to zeroing in on one,
what more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the decision-making process was? What more do you need to investigate
to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need.
Yeah, what more do you need to know, right? And this is the thing, right? This is the game. This is the game. I find it very. I find this portion of the situation, right, extremely entertaining, because we know that they're playing in our faces. We know that. So this part here, it's like, going back and forth. You should have known not to do this. Why isn't anybody fired? Why are we still having this conversation? Why wasn't this roof covered? Like, we know that they're not going to answer those questions. They're just not. They're still, so even when you remember going back to January 6th, right? When they were asking us to literally help them find people when they have pretty much everybody in their databases. Why are you asking us to help you find people when you already have them? Doesn't make sense. Just think about that for a second. They're asking us for answers and they already have them. Just doesn't make sense.
Need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot.
A lot of people didn't do their jobs.
I cannot put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
what do you mean put your thumb on the scale?
You're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the Secret Service.
Is it not prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our tech.
This is entertainment at this point.
Texas School Book Depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
then
just like you have.
Somebody to
and I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable.
Rush to judgment. 17 days. And I would be surprised. Maybe it's something that we have to revisit in the future. So make sure you subscribe. I would be surprised if we get any information before January. I would be really surprised.
And I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly persecuted?
Unfairly,
we've got people who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
You said earlier that you've got to make sure that you're...
What's the proper investigation that took place for January 6th? Now, I'm curious. So now I need to do a little bit more research to see if there's any documentary or anything that we have that is tangibly accurate from January 6th. Do we have anything? I'm curious. If we do, please make sure you put some in the comments below. I want to look at them. I want to say, hey, this is the events that took place in January 6th from perspectives that have information that are accurate and that are going to share that information. And I want to see, how accurate that is and if we're satisfied with the information that we have in front of us. Because there's still questions looming from January 6th. Because if any other group of individuals, even if you were to say, hey, if this demographic did what took place, or that demographic did what took place on January 6th, would we have the same outcome? Great question.
Your protocols are followed, and unless there's a protocol violation, people wouldn't be disciplined. I would just say to you, I don't really care that much about your protocols. I think if your protocols don't provide for the fact that when a former president is shot, when an American is killed, when other rally goers, innocent people who just showed up on the day, when they are shot at and critically wounded, if that isn't a protocol violation prima facie, you should revise your protocols.
So another thing that's interesting about that, right, is what's interesting about about that event in Butler, Pennsylvania, is that when the shots were going off, no one really moved in reaction to the shots. I don't know. For some reason, it's like for me, the behavior of so for example, let's just do this. If there were any concerts in the last 2 to 5 years that had an event that broke out, no one stands around. Everyone acknowledges the event and runs away from the event. Now, what was interesting, for this particular, rally, the rally that will be in history books, I'm sure, in years to come, the people behind the former president didn't really move to gunshots heading towards the stage. But we've seen people being pushed at concerts and a fight breaking out and maybe one gunshot going off, and everybody runs for their safety, whatever that looks like. So even that is strange. But let's carry on.
Senator, I think this is where you and I agree. This was a failure, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Well, I hope you're going to do something about it. Let me ask you something else. The Real Clear Politics reports this morning that you were directly involved in denying additional security resources and personnel, including counter snipers, not just to this event, but over the last 2 years, that President Trump's team repeatedly asked for these additional resources, and you personally were involved in denying them. Is that true?
Senator, as I stated earlier, that is not true.
So
that is not true. Listen very closely. Listen to this.
never denied any resources to former President Trump's team.
No, not me.
Not me. Not me. So someone denied it. So if it wasn't staged, then someone said, hey, you know what? We don't need that much security at this event. Let's just pull back and they'll be okay. So not me, but maybe someone you assigned did it, right? So that was very interesting. You know what? I actually want to go back to that part. Hold on. Let's just see if we can go back to that part. Hold on.
Senator, as I stated earlier, that is not true.
So you never denied any resources to former President Trump's team?
No, not me. No, sir.
And you weren't involved in any of that? You were never involved in the decision making?
No, sir, I was not.
Let me ask you just one or two other things here quickly.
Do you believe that? I mean, do you believe that right there? Don't know, man.
Well, whistleblowers tell me that, in fact, law enforcement were stationed to be on that roof. And
so whistleblowers, are they heroes or villains, right? So when you look at the when you look at the whistleblowers throughout the last 20, 30 years, how are their lives going, right? When a government is doing something illegal and someone working for the government says, hey, this is illegal, even though it's going to cost me my life, my entire family, and how I'm perceived, I'm willing to say that even though I work for you, what you're doing is illegal, and I'm going to expose it. How are their lives going?
that law enforcement abandoned their post because it was too hot. Is that accurate?
Senator, I have heard that as well. Again, they posted up inside. And I think moving forward
they posted up inside. So again, if we're playing Call of Duty, right? If whatever, pick a game, whether you like video games or not. This is not a video games channel. This is a news channel, right? Mostly talk about things I want to talk about. You can pick Halo. You can pick Call of Duty. Okay. You can pick Apex Legends. You can go back, if video games are not your thing, you can even go back to GoldenEye. Okay. If someone is on the roof and you don't want someone to be on the roof, then one of your teammates, they go on the roof to protect the roof so the other team doesn't go on the roof and take the roof. That's it. It is really that simple. But apparently, it's not.
As I said earlier, we're going to ensure that state and local counter snipers are on roofs.
But do you know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you know if someone was in fact? That's what the whistleblower tells me. That may or may not be accurate. Do you know that to be the fact? Was somebody posted to the roof, local law enforcement or whomever?
I do not know that to be a fact.
Well, can I ask you why you don't know that?
Again, Senator, we are looking at this, and they should have been on that roof. And the fact that they were in the
They should have been on that roof. But they were not.
building is something that I'm still trying to understand.
I just want to express my frustration, Director, that 17 days or whatever it's been,
17 days or more.
that whistleblowers are telling us more than you are, and you don't know, you haven't ascertained if there was supposed to be.
And whistleblowers will always tell you more, even if it costs them everything. Whether you ban their books, ban them from coming back to a particular country or territory, tell them that they can be interviewed by anybody, ready to pretty much tear away anything that they have going on because they expose something, right? They'll always tell you what's going on. So some people are thankful for whistleblowers and some people wish they never existed. But there's just something about knowing at the end of the day that you did the right thing, even if you're ousted from a community. There's just something powerful about that you can actually lay down and rest and know that, you know what? This entire group of people can hate me, but I know I did the right thing. There's just something just so good about that. And yes, I'm speaking from experience.
Law enforcement on the roof. That seems like a pretty basic fact. I'm also told that local law enforcement suppliers offered the Secret Service drones and you declined them. Is that true?
So, Senator,
how do you decline drones? It's just getting the more and more. So here's the thing I'm noticing. I can't even speak. The more and more that they speak, the worse it looks. Okay, every week that goes by.
one, I've been very transparent and forthcoming.
Your agency has not been transparent and forthcoming, so please, let's not go there.
I have been forthcoming, sir.
That remains to be seen. You've been on the job a few days.
Stay tuned, buddy.
So far, you've fired nobody. Now, the drones.
Thank you,
Were
Senator.
you offered drones?
Senator Hawley.
So there was an offer to fly a drone on that day.
And why did you deny it?
Denied a drone on that day. Come on, man.
Again, I think the ability of local law enforcement to provide an asset, we probably should have taken them up on it if it was offered.
Senator Cruz.
Can you imagine? I just find it funny. Can you imagine the people that's supposed to have all of the information to make the best decisions to protect all the dignitaries in the world, right? They have all this information, but yet an event like this takes place and nobody wants to share why it seemed like it was such an incompetent day. It makes no sense. This is a Trump assassination attempt, and you want us to believe, watching this, that this spectacle of not having any answers or not firing anyone is okay. It doesn't make sense. Please make sure you like, subscribe, check out this video right here, and we'll see you on the next one.